So this lesson's all about congruent triangles. One of the big theorems and concepts that come up with this is called, it's abbreviated CPCTC. And you're going to see this abbreviation a lot. What it means, or what that stands for, is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So instead of having to write out this whole statement, it's abbreviated as CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. What that means is, like, if you have two congruent triangles like this, corresponding parts are congruent. So like this is equal to this is equal to this length is equal to this. So all the side lengths are the same. Corresponding parts are congruent. And then also the angles are the same measure. So this angle would be the same as this here, same as this one, and so on. So all the side lengths and all the angles individually are the same as well. So congruent polygons have the same shape and the same size. We've been working with this word congruent for a while. Things that are congruent are same shape and the same size. Here's an example. These trapezoids are all congruent. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same orientation. Notice how this is like turned and stuff, or reflected. But if it has all the same side lengths and all the same angles, they're congruent. Here's an example of things that aren't congruent. They're not the same shape, not the same size, not congruent. Okay, triangles are congruent if all the sides and all the angles are congruent. Each side and each angle is congruent, and then that's where we bring in our CPCTC, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so now we're going to practice similar to what we did for the bell work, actually. Real focus on the paper while it's focusing. It says identify all pairs of congruent corresponding parts, then write a congruent statement. So we are going to find all the matching parts. First, it wants the matching sides. So I'm just going to match sides. Let's see. So side CB with one tally. So segment CB matches segment EF. And that's all they want. You're just matching. And then we have side AB with two tallies matches side DF with two tallies. AB is congruent to DF. Notice how I'm not switching colors. Usually I'd like color code, but I want you to really focus on the tallies because that's how I'm matching. Here, 3 little marks matches 3 little marks here. So AC is congruent to ED. Segment AC is congruent to ED. Okay, next we're going to match the angles. So if it has the same number of arcs, that means that those angles are the same measure. So angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle A is congruent to angle D. And then B has 2 arcs, and so does F. So angle B is equal to angle F. And then C has 3 arcs, and that would equal E with 3 marks. So angle C is congruent to angle E. Then when we make the congruent statement, whatever, you can name these like in any order. You just have to kind of like connect the dots. So CBA, you could say ACB. You could even go the other direction, BAC, as long as you're like connecting the dots in order. So whatever you choose is fine. So triangle, let's say BAC, just choosing random order. It has to match this statement over here, like all the corresponding parts have to match. So BAC, I went 2, 1 arc to 3. So I have to make sure to do that for the second statement. So 2 to 1 arc to 3. So I'm going to do 2 to 1 arc to 3. So FDE. And so I can even check it, just making sure like everything matches. So this first letter, B, should match the angle F. So B, yep, B and F are equal. A and C, A and D should match. And yes, they both have 1 arc. And C, 3 arcs, E is 3 arcs too. Also, the way this is ordered, you can also identify congruent segments. So like these first 2 letters, segment BA should be equal to FD. So looking at this, BA is 2 tallies, I said the wrong letters, FD. Like these first 2 letters match this. So BA right here, 2 marks, FD is 2 marks, so it matches. And so wherever the letter placement means that they are equal as well. So when we write a congruent statement, the order of the letters in the names of the triangles is extremely important. Corresponding parts must be in the same order. And we're going to practice that more on the next side of the page. So examples over here. Given that triangle JKL is congruent to COT, finish the following congruent statements and mark the corresponding congruent sides. So here, what we're going to do is actually just use the congruent statement to fill in these blanks. So I'm going to start with the angles. So J right here should correspond with C, angle C. So angle J is equal to angle C. And then the middle letter, K and O, those angles are going to be congruent. So K is congruent to angle O. And then the last letter, L, is congruent to T. So angle L is congruent to angle T. And then we can also use a congruent statement to match corresponding sides. So the first 2 letters, JK, should be congruent to segment CO. CO. So JK, finding it here, should be congruent to CO. Cool. And then the last 2 letters of the statement, KL and OT. So KL is congruent to OT. And looking at it over here, KL is congruent to OT. Colors have I not used so far? I don't know. Oh. And then CT, so like the first and last letter here, CT, would be equal to JL, the first and last letter in the statement here. So JL is congruent to CT, and we just make the right number of tallies showing that they're equal, like that. Okay, next, write a congruent statement for the triangles below. Okay, so ROK, so they went ROK. So they went from the angle with 1 little tally mark to this mark to 2 tally marks. So they went from 1 tally mark on the angle to the 2 tally marks like that. So DEM. And then you can check it just to make sure R and D are the congruent, E and O are congruent, and then K and M are congruent. Cool. Okay, and then the next one, same idea. ZWB, so they're going ZWB, so they're going from 1 tally to 2, like that. So I'm going to go 1 tally to 2 and say CPS. That. Okay, and then the next example brings in some numbers. Remember, corresponding parts are congruent. So if we know that like X and M are congruent angles, so X and M are congruent, then if X is 33 degrees, then we know that M is 33 degrees. Like that. Or if we know that N is 124 and it's congruent to Y, then this would be 124 degrees too. Or if we know that this side length NM is 8, so NM right here, use a different color, NM are these first 2 letters is 8, then XY is 8. And then we're going to answer these questions here. So it says measure of angle Y is 124. Measure of angle M, 33 degrees. The length of YX is 8. We labeled that. It says YZ is congruent to what? Well, YZ right here, just label it like this. YZ, the last two letters, would be equal to NL right here. And then it wants two separate congruent statements. We just follow the order that they have. So L, N, M. So L, N, M would be here to here. So this mark to the 33 degrees. So I'm going to do this mark to 33 would be Z, Y, X. So Z, Y, X. Then for the next one, Y, X, Z. Y, X, Z. So they're going to show it without it getting too crowded. Y, X, Z is here, the 8, the side that's labeled 8, and then the long side. So they go from here, the side that's labeled 8, the long side. So NML, triangle NML. And then you can just check it too. Y is 124, N is 124, X is 33, so this middle letter should be 33. We're good. Okay. The last one has to deal with angle measures. So in congruent triangles, the angles would be the same. It says find the measure of the missing angles in each pair of congruent triangles. Okay, well, to find this third angle, I can do 180 minus 35 minus 88, and that comes out to 57. So this would be 57 degrees. Since they're congruent, this would also be 57 degrees. And since the other two angles are the same, this would be 57. And then for this one, it shows that this angle is the same as this one, but it doesn't label it. So if this is 83 and it showed with this mark that these are equal, then this must be 83 degrees. And then if this is shown with two arcs and so is this, then this must be the same measure, 42 degrees. And then the third angle are going to match as well. To find it, we're just going to do 180 minus 83 minus 42, and it comes out to 55 degrees. So this is 55, this is 55, and we're good. Okay, so that is all. You have the rest of class to do the homework on Schoology. So homework 5-2 on Schoology, and then work on your weekly Alex.